Hey guys, Larry here with Creaky Chair Models. Today's subject is a little bitty voltage regulator and a bridge rectifier. I discovered these a few months ago and threw them in the box with some frustration at the time with adjusting them. I'll get into that in a minute. This thing takes a 3 to 30 volt input and it has a 1 to 27 volt output. It's actually 32 volts. I kind of go on the bottom side of things. This bridge rectifier will be hooked up to these inputs here, and that'll allow me to use AC or DC, polarity independent, to run the regulator. The specs indicate it's a 1.5 amp regulator. That's kind of stretching it, I think. It's probably safe to run it at 1 amp. Put it in perspective, that's about 50 LEDs running at 20 milliamps. There's a little potentiometer right here. I was having trouble getting it to adjust, and basically what it is it's so shallow that none of my Phillips screwdrivers worked well on it. I finally took a small flat blade and was able to adjust it quite readily, and it stays very stable. I'm going to show you a couple of projects that I've done using these just in the past couple days. Actually, since yesterday. So, here you go. Alright, so here's the first project. What I've done is I've mounted it on a little piece of styrene. I have a little diode on the output to isolate this 1 farad capacitor. I'm using this as a keep alive on a G-gauge passenger car that has 2 3-volt bulbs on it. Basically, it's just going to keep the lights on as it goes over turnouts and maybe even some dirty track. But I think it'll work pretty well. I tested it at 80 milliamps last night and it stayed on for almost 30 seconds. It did dim a little bit, no surprise there, but it does work. Again, the input, since the customer's G-gauge, he has MTH, DCC, and DC. Any of those inputs in here, polarity independent, will allow this thing to work. So here's the next thing I did with it. This little circuit is a color TV simulator that Dr. Jeff Bunza created, and it was in Model Railroad Hobbyist. I did tweak the timing a little bit to suit me, and I found that with differing LEDs, you may have to tweak the code a little bit. At any rate, it's running off an Arduino Pro Mini. I measured the current draw of the Pro Mini. It's about 22 to 23 milliamps. But I am powering it, and have been for over an hour, with the little voltage regulator and a bridge rectifier on the input. The voltage input to that rectifier, and it comes from my DCC track power. I've had absolutely no problems with the Arduino acting up or doing any strange code things. I did notice there's a capacitor on the input, and that's probably smoothing it out a little bit, but the bigger thing is this chip is what's called a switching regulator, so it really doesn't matter about the pulses. It will turn on and off so rapidly that it's pretty solid output. The specs indicate 30 millivolts of ripple. I may take a scope to it at some point, but I'm not really going to worry about it too much today. But as you can see, the Arduino is working perfectly. The circuit's been on for almost an hour and a half. So with the new eyesight, hey, I got to do some little miniature soldering today. Thanks for watching, guys.